had a wonderful Christmas. Mine was absolutely joyful, and I am so happy to see you today. It is always a good day when I get to see you. So first, we're going to pick up where we left off with quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-Tung. It is so fascinating to me to read this. We'll talk a little afterwards, but I think the words speak for themselves, and you're smart enough to figure out what this says. But first, here is my shout out. My shout out is my washcloth. I like to get this as hot as I can under the hottest water possible and squeeze it out and then scrub my face with it. And it's perfect. I don't use soap, I just use this. And then this is my product placement. It's Goo Gone. And I got this at the Dollar Tree. I did buy it before the prices went up, so this cost $1, but now it would cost $1.25 because they raised their prices. But this is such a wonderful thing. There's a million uses for it. But I found that if I use this, and I use this old sock, and I moisten the sock with this, and then I rub my headlights on the car, and it gets all the goo off of it, and it makes them sparkle. Once it dries, they get cloudy again, but then I hit it again a few times. So over the course of a few days of keep going back with the Goo Gone, you can get the headlights looking pretty sharp. And then if you've ever put down a floor using thin set and that goo gets everywhere, you have to use that to get it off. That's the only thing that'll work. But we will get started right away on picking up where we left off with quotations from Chairman Mao. And as always, leave me a comment and leave something over in the chat, so then I know that you were here and I can go and look at your channel and your videos and set you to monitor, because they're very important to me and I don't want to lose touch. So we will get started right away. We won't go too much because it's a good day to go shopping now that all the stuff is on sale. And buy more stuff I don't need. But anyway, Chapter 22, Methods of Thinking and Methods of Work. The history of mankind is one of continuous development from the realm of necessity to the realm of freedom. The process is never ending. In any society in which classes exist, class struggle will never end. In classless society, the struggle between the new and the old, and between the truth and falsehood, will never end. In the fields of the struggle for production and scientific experiment, mankind makes constant progress and nature undergoes constant change. They never remain at the same level. Therefore, man has constantly to sum up experience and go on discovering, inventing, creating, and advancing. Ideas and stagnation, pessimism, inertia, and complacency are all wrong. They are wrong because they agree neither with the historical facts of social development over the past million years, nor with the historical facts of nature so far known to us, i.e. nature as revealed in the history of celestial bodies, the earth, life, and other natural phenomena. Natural science is one of man's weapons in his fight for freedom. For the purpose of attaining freedom in society, man must use social science to understand and change society and carry out social revolution. For the purpose of attaining freedom in the world of nature, man must use natural science to understand, conquer, and change nature, and thus attain freedom from nature. The Marxist philosophy of dialectical materialism has two outstanding characteristics. One is its class nature. It openly avows the dialectical materialism in it is in the service of the proletariat. The other is its practicality. It emphasizes the dependence of theory on practice, emphasizes that theory is based on practice and in turn serves practice. Marxist philosophy holds that the most important problem does not lie in understanding the laws of the objective world and thus being able to explain it, but in applying the knowledge of these laws actively to change the world. Where do correct ideas come from? Do they drop from the skies? No. Are they innate in the minds? No. They come from social practice. And from it alone, they come from three kinds of social practice: the struggle for production, the class struggle, and scientific experiment. It is man's social being that determines his thinking. Once the correct ideas, characteristics of the advanced class are grasped by the masses, these ideas turn into a material force which changes society and changes the world. In their social practice, men engage in various kinds of struggle and gain rich experience both from their successes and from their failures. Countless phenomena of the objective external world are reflected in a man's brain through his five sense organs, the organs of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. At first, knowledge is perpetual. The leap to conceptual knowledge, i.e. the ideas, occurs when sufficient perpetual knowledge is accumulated. This is one process in cognition. It is the first stage in the whole process of cognition. The stage leading from objective matter to subjective consciousness, from existence to ideas, whether or not one's consciousness or ideas, including theories, practices, plans, or measures, do correctly reflect the law of the objective external world, is not yet proved at this stage, in which it is not yet possible to ascertain whether they are correct or not. Then comes the second stage, in which the process of cognition, the stage leading from consciousness back to matter, from ideas back to existence, in which the knowledge gained in the first stage is applied in social practice to ascertain whether the theories, policies, plans, or measures meet with the anticipated success. Generally speaking, those that succeed are correct and those that fail are incorrect. And this is especially true of man's struggle with nature. In social struggle, the forces representing the advanced class sometimes suffer defeat, not because their ideas are incorrect, but because in the balance of forces engaged in struggle, they are not as powerful for the time being as the forces of reaction. They are therefore temporarily defeated, but they are bound to triumph over sooner or later. Man's knowledge makes another leap through the test of practice. This leap is more important than the previous one, for it is this leap alone that can prove the correctness or incorrectness of the first leap in cognition, i.e. the ideas, theories, practices, policies, plans, or measures formulated in the course of reflecting the objective external world. There is no other way of testing truth. Often, correct knowledge can be arrived at only after many repetitions of the process leading from matter to consciousness and then back to matter. That is, leading from practice to knowledge and then back to practice. Such is the Marxist theory of knowledge, the dialectical materialism theory of knowledge. Whoever wants to know a thing has no way of doing so except by coming into contact with it, that is, by living, practicing, in its environment. If you want knowledge, you must take part in the practice of changing reality. If you want to know the taste of a pear, you must change the pear by eating it yourself. If you want to know the theory and methods of revolution, you must take part in revolution. All genuine knowledge originates in direct experience. Knowledge begins with practice, and theoretical knowledge, which is acquired through practice, must then return to practice. The active function of knowledge manifests itself not only in the active leap from perceptual to rational knowledge, but, and this is more important, it must manifest itself in the leap from rational knowledge to revolutionary practice. It is well known that when you do anything, unless you understand its actual circumstances, its nature and its relations to other things, you will not know the laws governing it, or know how to do it, or be able to do it well. If a man wants to succeed in his work, that is, achieve the anticipated results, he must bring his ideas into correspondence with the laws of the objective external world. If they do not correspond, he will fail in his practice. After he fails, he draws his lessons, correct his ideas to make them correspond to the laws of the external world, and can thus turn failure into success. This is what is meant by failure is the mother of success, and a fall into the pit, again in your wit. We are Marxist, and Marxism teaches that in our approach to a problem we should start from objective facts, not from abstract definitions, and that we should derive our guiding principles, policies, and measures from an analysis of these facts. The most fundamental method of work which all communists must firmly bear in mind is to determine our working policies according to actual conditions. When we study the cause of the mistakes we have made, we find that they all arose because we departed from the actual situation at a given time and place, and were subjective in determining our working policies. Idealism and metaphysics are the easiest things in the world because people can talk as much nonsense as they like without basing it on objective reality or having it tested against reality. Marxism and dialectics, on the other hand, need effort. They must be based on and tested by objective reality. Unless one makes the effort, one is liable to slip into idealism and metaphysics. Then, when we look at a thing, we must examine its essence and treat its appearance merely as an usher at the threshold. And once we cross the threshold, we must grasp the essence of the thing. This is the only reliable and scientific method of analysis. The fundamental cause of the development of a thing is not external, but internal. It lies in the contradictoriness within the thing. This internal contradiction exists in every single thing, hence its motion and development. Contradictoriness within a thing is the fundamental cause of its development, while its interrelations and interactions with other things are secondary causes. Materialist dialectics holds that external causes are the conditions of change and internal causes are the basis of change, and the external causes become operative through internal causes. And a suitable temperature, an egg changes into a chicken. But no temperature can change a stone into a chicken because each has a different basis. Marxist philosophy holds that the law of the unity of opposites is the fundamental law of the universe. This law operates universally, whether in the natural world and human society or in a man's thinking. Between the opposites and a contradiction, there is at once unity and struggle, and it is this that impels things to move and change. Contradictions exist everywhere, but they differ in accordance with the different nature of different things. In any given phenomenon, a thing, the unity of opposites is conditional, temporary and transitory, and hence relative, whereas the struggle of opposites is absolute. The analytical method is dialectical. By analysis, we mean analyzing the contradictions in things, and sound analysis is impossible without intimate knowledge of life and without real understanding of the pertinent contradictions. Concrete analysis of concrete conditions, Lenin said, is the most essential thing in Marxism, the living soul of Marxism. Lacking an analytical approach, many of our comrades do not want to go deeply into complex matters, to analyze and study them over and over again, but like to draw simple conclusions which are either absolutely affirmative or absolutely negative. From now on, we should remedy this state of affairs. The way these comrades look at problems is wrong. They do not look at the essential or main aspects, but emphasize the non-essential or minor ones. It should be pointed out that these non-essential or minor aspects must not be overlooked and must be dealt with one by one, but they should not be taken as the essential or main aspects, as we will lose our bearings. In this world, things are complicated and are decided by many factors. We should look at problems from different aspects, not from just one. Only those who are subjective, one-sided, and superficial in their approach to problems will smugly issue orders or directives the moment they arrive on the scene, without considering the circumstances, without viewing things in their totality, their history and their present state as a whole, and without getting to the essence of things, their nature and the intellectual relations between one thing and another. Such people are bound to trip and fall. In studying a problem, we must shun a subjectivity, one-sidedness, and superficiality. To be subjective means not to look at problems objectively, that is, not to use the materialist viewpoint in looking at problems. I've discussed this in my essay on practice. To be one-sided means not to look at problems all-sidedly. Or it may be called seeing the part but not the whole, seeing the trees but not the forest. That way it is impossible to find the method for resolving a contradiction. It is impossible to accomplish the tasks of the revolution, to carry out assignments well, or to develop inter-party ideological struggle correctly. When Sun Tzu said in discussing military science, know the enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles with no danger of defeat, he was referring to the two sides in a battle. Wei Qing of the Tang Dynasty also understood the error of one-sidedness when he said, listen to both sides and you will be enlightened. Heed only one side and you will be benighted. But our comrades often look at problems one-sidedly, and so they often run into snags. Lenin said, in order to know an object, we must embrace, study all its sides, all its connections and meditations. We shall never achieve this completely, but the demand for all-sidedness is a safeguard against mistakes and rigidity. We should remember his words. To be superficial means to consider neither the characteristics of a contradiction in its totality, nor the characteristics of each of its aspects. It means to deny the necessity for probing deeply into a thing and minutely studying the characteristics of its contradictions, but instead merely to look from afar and, after glimpsing the rough outline, immediately to try to resolve the contradiction. To answer a question, settle a dispute, handle work, or direct military operation, this way of doing things is bound to lead to trouble. To be one-sided and superficial is at the same time to be subjective, for all objective things are actually interconnected and are governed by inner laws. But instead of undertaking the task of reflecting things as they really are, some people only look at things one-sidedly or superficially and know neither the interconnections nor inner laws, and so their method is subjectiveness. One-sidedness means thinking in terms of absolutes. That is a metaphysical approach to problems in the appraisal of our work. It is one-sided to regard everything either as all positive or all negative. To regard everything as positive is to see only the good and not the bad, and to tolerate and only praise, not criticize. To talk as though our work is good in every respect as at variance with the facts. It is not true that everything is good. There are still shortcomings and mistakes, but neither is it true that everything is bad, and two, is at variance with the facts. Here, analysis is necessary. To negate everything is to think without having made any analysis that nothing has been done well, and that the great work of socialist construction, the great struggle in which hundreds of millions of people are participating, is a complete mess with nothing in it worth commending. Although there is a difference between the many people who hold such views and those who are hostile to the socialist system, these views are very mistaken and harmful and can only dishearten people. It is wrong to appraise our work either from the viewpoint that everything is positive or from the viewpoint that everything is negative. In approaching a problem, a Marxist should see the whole as well as the parts. A frog in a well says, "The sky is no bigger than the mouth of the well." That is untrue, for the sky is not just the size of the mouth of the well. If it said a part of the sky is the size of the mouth of the well, that part would be true, for it tallies with the facts. We must learn to look at problems all-sidedly, seeing the reverse as well as the adverse side of things. In given conditions, a bad thing can lead to good results, and a good thing to bad results. While we recognize that in general development of history, the material determines the mental, and social being determines social consciousness, we also indeed must recognize the reaction of mental on material things, of social consciousness on social being, and of substructure on the economic base. This does not go against materialism. On the contrary, it avoids mechanical materialism and firmly upholds dialectical materialism. In seeking victory, those who direct a war cannot overstep the limitations imposed on the objective conditions. Within these limitations, however, they can and must play a dynamic role in striving for victory. The stage of action for comrades in a war must be built upon objective possibilities, but on that stage they can direct the performance of many a drama full of sound and color, power and grandeur. People must adapt their thinking to the changed conditions. Of course, no one should go off into the wild flights of fancy or make plans of action unwarranted by the objective situation or stretch for the impossible. The problem today, however, is that rightist, conservative thinking is still causing mischief in many spheres and preventing the work in these spheres from keeping pace with the development of the objective situation. The present problem is that many people consider it impossible to accomplish things which could be accomplished if they exerted themselves. We should always use our brains and think everything over carefully. The common saying goes, knit your brows and you will hit upon a stratagem. In other words, much thinking yields wisdom. In order to get rid of the blindness which exists to a serious extent in our party, we must encourage our comrades to think, to learn the method of analysis, and to cultivate the habit of analysis. If in any process there are a number of contradictions, one of them must be the principal contradiction playing the leading and decisive role, while the rest occupy a secondary and subordinate position. Therefore, in studying any complex process in which there are two or more contradictions, we must devote every effort to finding its principal contradiction. Once this principal contradiction is grasped, all problems can be readily solved. Of the two contradictory aspects, one must be principal and the other secondary. The principal aspect is the one playing the leading role in the contradiction. The nature of a thing is determined mainly by the principal aspect of the contradiction, the aspect which has gained the dominant position. But the situation is not static. The principal and the non-principal aspects of a contradiction transforms themselves into each other, and the nature of the thing changes accordingly. It is not enough to set tasks. We must also solve the problem of the methods for carrying them out. If our task is to cross a river, we cannot cross it without a bridge or a boat. Unless the bridge or the boat problem is solved, it is idle to speak of crossing the river. Unless the problem and method is solved, talk about the task. It is useless. In any task, if no general and widespread call is issued, the broad masses cannot be mobilized for action. But if persons in leading positions confine themselves to a general call, if they do not personally in some of the organizations go deeply and concretely into the work called for, make a breakthrough at some single point, gain experience, and use the experience for guiding other units, then they will have no way of testing the correctness or of enriching the content of the general call, and there is the danger that nothing may come of it. No one in leading position is competent to give general guidance to all the units unless he derives concrete experience from particular individuals and events and particular subordinate units. This method must be promoted everywhere so that leading cadres at all levels learn to apply it. In any given place, there cannot be a number of central tasks at the same time, At any one time, there can be only one central task supplemented by other tasks of a second or third order of importance. Consequently, the person with overall responsibility in the locality must take into account the history and circumstances of the struggle there and put the different tasks in their proper order. He should not act upon each instruction as it comes from the higher organization without any planning of his own, and thereby create a multitude of central tasks and state of confusion and disorder. Nor should a higher organization simultaneously assign many tasks to a lower organization without indicating their relative importance and urgency, or without specifying which is central, for that he will lead to confusion in the steps to be taken by the lower organization in their work, and thus no definite results will be achieved. It is part of the art of leadership to take the whole situation into account and plan accordingly in the light of the historical conditions and existing circumstances of each locality, decide correctly on the center of gravity and the sequence of the work for each period, steadfastly carrying through the decision, and make sure that definite results are achieved. A regional or sub-regional bureau of the Central Committee of the party should constantly have a grip on the progress of the work, exchange experience, correct mistakes. It should not wait several months, half a year, or a year before holding summing up meetings for general checkup and general correction of mistakes. Waiting leads to great loss, while correcting mistakes as soon as they occur reduces loss. Don't wait until problems pile up and cause a lot of trouble before trying to solve them. Leaders must march ahead of the movement, not lag behind it. What we need is an enthusiastic but calm state of mind and intense but orderly work. Wow. So we are now up to chapter 23, which is called Investigation and Study. So we don't have that much left to read for today. So this is chapter 23, Investigation and Study. Everyone engaged in practical work must investigate conditions at the lower levels. Such investigation is especially necessary for those who know theory but do not know the actual conditions, for otherwise they will not be able to link theory with practice. Although my assertion, no investigation, no right to speak, has been ridiculed as narrow empiricism, to this day I do not regret having made it. Far from regretting it, I still insist that without investigation there cannot possibly be any right to speak. There are many people who, the moment they alight from the official carriage, make a hullabaloo, spout opinions, criticize this and condemn that, but in fact 10 out of 10 of them will meet with failure. For such views or criticisms which are not based on thorough investigation are nothing but ignorant twaddle. Countless times our party suffered at the hands of these imperial envoys who rushed here, there, and everywhere. Stalin rightly says that theory becomes purposeless if it is not connected with revolutionary practice. And he rightly adds that practice gropes in the dark if its path is not illuminated by revolutionary theory. Nobody should be labeled a narrow empiricist, except the practical man who gropes in the dark and lacks perspective and foresight. To take such an attitude is to seek truth from facts. Facts are all the things that exist objectively. Truth means their internal relations, that is, the laws governing them, and to seek means to study. We should proceed from the actual conditions inside and outside the country, the province, county, or district, and derive from them as our guide to action laws which are inherent in them and not imaginary. That is, we should find the internal relations of the events occurring around us, and in order to do that we must rely not on subjective imagination, not on momentary enthusiasm, not on lifeless books, but on facts that exist objectively. We must appropriate the material in the detail and, guided by the general principles of Marxism, Leninism, draw correct conclusions from it. To behave like a blindfolded man catching sparrows or a blind man groping for fish, to be crude and careless, to indulge in verbiage, to rest content with a smattering of knowledge, such as the extremely bad style of work that exists among many comrades in our party, a style utterly opposed to the fundamental spirit of Marxism-Leninism. Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin have taught us that it is necessary to study conditions conscientiously and to proceed from objective reality and not from subjective wishes. But many of our comrades act in direct violation of this truth. You can't solve a problem. Well, get down to investigate the present facts and its past history. When you have investigated the problem thoroughly, you will know how to solve it. Conclusions invariably come after investigation and not before. Only a blockhead cudgels his brain on his own or together with a group to find a solution or to evolve an idea without making an investigation. It must be stressed that this cannot possibly lead to an effective solution or any good idea. Investigation may be likened to the long months of pregnancy and solving a problem to the day of birth. To investigate a problem is indeed to solve it. With the Marxist-Leninist attitude, a person applies the theory and method of Marxism-Leninism to the systematic and thorough investigation and study of the environment. He does not work by enthusiasm alone, but as Stalin says, combines revolutionary sweep with practicalness. The only way to know conditions is to make social investigations, to investigate the conditions of each social class's real life. For those charged with directing work, the basic method for knowing conditions is to concentrate on a few cities and villages according to the plan, and using the fundamental viewpoint of Marxism, i.e., the method of class analysis, make a number of thorough investigations. A fact-finding meeting need not be large. From 3 to 5 or 7 or 8 people are enough. Ample time must be allowed and an outline for the investigation must be prepared. Furthermore, one must personally ask questions, take notes, and have discussions with those at the meeting. Therefore, one certainly cannot make an investigation or do it well without zeal, a determination to direct one's eyes downward, and a thirst for knowledge, and without shedding the ugly mantle of pretentiousness and becoming a willing pupil. A commander's correct dispositions stem from his correct decisions stem from his correct judgments, and his correct judgment stems from a thorough and necessary reconnaissance from the pondering on and piecing together the data of various kinds gathered through reconnaissance. He applies all possible and necessary methods of reconnaissance and ponders on the information gathered about the enemy's situation, discarding the dross and selecting the essential, eliminating the false and retaining the true, proceeding from the one to the other and from the outside to the inside. Then he takes the conditions on his own side into account and makes a study of both sides and their interrelations, thereby forming his judgments, making up his mind and working out his plans. Such is the complete process of knowing a situation without a military man goes through before he formulates a strategic plan, a campaign plan, or a battle plan. Oh wow, that was what we had planned for today, so that we'll stop there. So we read up to chapter 23. We'll pick up there another day. We are reading Quotations from Mao Tse-Tung. It's the little red book, and I'm reading this. Very fascinating, very fascinating. I wanted to read it for everyone so that perhaps you will reconsider using or not using TikTok. So I think the words should speak for themselves. It's obvious, did he not know what the scientific process was? I know I learned that in high school. I think it was maybe even junior high chemistry class. I think I learned the scientific process. And statistics, when you find your standard deviation from you, like any business manager, any person in a position of decision making would look at the statistics, and he's kind of pointing out some obvious things, but maybe he wasn't so educated in some of the things that perhaps would have been helpful for him. Anyway, this is very fascinating, and I hope that you will keep this in mind, these words in mind, when you choose to use anything by China. I know there's so many things that we don't have a choice over when you go to the store, even if you go to a higher price store, even a luxury brand store. We don't always have the choice. You turn that label over and it said made in China, and you search high and low, and you find something, you think it's made in America, or you think it's made in Europe, and you find out that half of it was made in China, but maybe part of it was made. Yeah, it's mind-blowing how we got to this point. But as we read in this book, China has incremental 5 years with their plan, and we're right up to the level where they want us to be. There is a way out. We can just pull the plug, but here is my shout out. My shout out is my washcloth. I like my washcloth. I get this with the hottest possible water I can stand, and I wring it out, and then I scrub my face. To scrub it, I don't like to use soap, and I scrub it, and it keeps my face clean. And then this is my product placement. Goo gone. And I bet, let's see where, no, look at that. It's made in America. See? Made in America. All right, so we will buy more Goo Gone. And I bought it at the Dollar Tree. I bought it before they raised their prices. So this little bottle goes a very long way. It smells like citrus. It smells like orange. And I use this for a lot of things, but primarily to wash the headlights on my car. It gets the filminess off of it. It makes them somewhat clearer. There's the part inside the headlight that you can't clean unless you completely dismantle the whole thing, which that's not happening. But I use that to clean the headlights. I don't get any on the paint. I don't think that would be a good idea. It is a solvent of some sort. And that is that. I had the most joyful Christmas yesterday. The most joyful Christmas I've had in years, probably since I was a kid. Was just surrounded by love. It just can't describe how wonderful it was. It was just the best. And today is the day when everything goes on sale. I'm not the type to stock up on the Christmas stuff. I'm not going to go buy up bundles of wrapping paper and decorations, but I'm always looking out for a new pair of sneakers. Fingers crossed. I can find a pair of sneakers. But the quality of products has gone downhill, down, because of various factors, mainly because of China. But maybe I can find that one pair of sneakers. I'm hoping within the price range of $40 to $60, but that's a big if. That's about all I have on my list is sneakers, and maybe a couple of new shirts would be nice. I didn't get a lot of clothes this year for Christmas because I really don't like getting clothes as gifts. You're never going to guess my size, or my taste. And that is that. I'm so happy you're here and that you're part of my family, because my world is complete when you're in it. And that we've been reading this book. We don't have much left to read, really. It's just very little left. Let's see, we're up to page 134. And I think we have maybe, it looks like it goes up to 179. So we're getting there. We don't have much left, so maybe just a few more readings. This is a slow week. Things have finally simmered down for me for the time being. It's been a whirlwind past several months, I would say. The past year, I couldn't even go through the list of things that I went through and things that I experienced, which it just makes my head spin. And thanks be to God that He's been with me every step of the way, and your company has helped me immensely also. But I hope you have a wonderful day. Leave me a comment and something in the chat, and I will go back through and look at your channels as always, because I really do enjoy looking at your videos. Big kiss, and you tell me what you're up to. I hope you have a great day. Many blessings. Bless.